France gave the world the Eiffel Tower, haute couture, and what many consider the greatest food culture on the planet. And at the very heart of that food culture, above the wine, above the bread, above everything, sits cheese. The French don't just eat cheese, they protect it, argue about it, and build entire regional identities around it. There are over 1,200 varieties. Some are centuries old, some are legally protected, some require specific cows, specific pastures, specific caves to even exist. So when a product wraps itself in French branding, French colours and French charm, but contains almost none of what makes French cheese extraordinary, that's not just misleading, that's a betrayal of something genuinely sacred. Today we're pulling back the curtain on 6 brands that are selling you the idea of French cheese while giving you something else entirely. And then, because France deserves the credit, we're going to show you 4 brands that are the absolute real deal. 1. La Vache qui rit, the laughing cow. You've seen that cheerful red cow smiling at you from the supermarket shelf, and something about it just feels trustworthy. It feels French. It feels like cheese, and that smile is doing a lot of heavy lifting, because what's inside those little foil triangles is not what you think. La Vache qui rit is made by Bell Group, one of the world's biggest processed food corporations, and the actual cheese in this product is almost an afterthought. The real ingredients are emulsifying salts, milk proteins, and industrial binders that hold the whole thing together. There's no aging, no craftsmanship, no tradition, just a factory process designed to produce a consistent, shelf-stable paste. The genius of this brand is that the cow's smile replaced your need to ask questions. You trusted the packaging, not the ingredient list. And that's exactly what they were counting on. And if you thought that was bad, what comes next has been doing this for even longer, and it's been marketing it directly to your children. 2. Kiri. Kiri wraps itself in the language of innocence. Fresh milk, pure cream, good for kids. The packaging is soft, friendly, and designed to make parents feel like they're making a responsible choice. You hand this to your child thinking you're giving them real dairy nutrition. What you're actually giving them is a product loaded with emulsifying salts and stabilizers, industrial additives that hold the texture together and extend shelf life. The actual cheese content is minimal. One serving delivers almost no meaningful calcium for a growing child, which is extraordinary for a product that sells itself entirely on being wholesome dairy goodness. Kiri doesn't just mislead adults, it targets the parental instinct to nourish. That's a far more calculated emotional play. You didn't buy this because you wanted processed food. You bought it because you love your kids. Kiri knew that and built its entire brand around it. Now we move from something aimed at your children to something aimed at your social life, because the next brand has turned processed cheese into a party trick. 3. Apéricube. Picture a French apéritif. Wine glasses clinking, good company, and a little bowl of apéricube cubes on the table. It feels sophisticated, it feels European, it feels like you have taste. That atmosphere is the product, because the actual cheese inside those tiny foil wrappers is little more than a flavoured industrial paste. The same emulsified dairy base as the laughing cow, shaped into a cube and given a name like Gouda or goat. Here's the thing. The flavour of Gouda in that cube comes mostly from flavouring agents, not actual Gouda. Every single cube, regardless of what's printed on the wrapper, has the same smooth, identical, shiny texture. That's not how real cheese works, but Apéricube understood something powerful. If you surround a mediocre product with the right social setting, people stop questioning what they're eating. The party is the distraction. The wrapper is the illusion. What comes next manages to do something even more impressive. It convinced an entire generation that it's handcrafted farmhouse cheese, and it charges you accordingly. 4. Boursin. Boursin is dressed to impress. The crumbly white texture, the elegant foil wrapping, the suggestion of a Normandy farmhouse somewhere in its DNA. Every visual detail says artisan. You pay a premium price for it without blinking because it looks like the kind of cheese a French grandmother would make. She wouldn't. Boursin is a processed fresh cheese product owned by Bell Group, bulked out with cream, stabilizers, and flavoring agents. The garlic and herb version, their bestseller, gets much of its punchiness from added flavorings, not from the quality of the underlying cheese. What makes Boursin uniquely manipulative is that it doesn't just sell you a product, it sells you an identity. You're not just buying cheese, you're buying the version of yourself that has refined European taste. That emotional transaction is worth far more to Bell Group than whatever's actually inside the foil, and you pay for it every single time. Now we step into proper corporate sleight of hand, a brand you genuinely respect, being used to sell you something it should be embarrassed to put its name on. 5. President processed cheese slices. Here's where it gets quietly infuriating. President is a name that carries real weight. Decades of genuine French cheese making, legitimate brie, real AOC certified products. You see that gold and black label and your brain files it under quality. That's the trap. Because the processed cheese slices sold under that same prestigious name are an entirely different product. Industrial slices made with emulsifying salts, milk proteins and colorants, containing just enough actual cheese to keep the word cheese on the label. The flavor is flat. The texture melts in a rubbery synthetic way that no real cheese ever would. Lactalis, the corporation behind President, is essentially borrowing trust that took decades to build and quietly transferring it onto a product that doesn't deserve it. You're not buying French cheese heritage, you're buying a very well branded processed slice. The prestigious name is doing the selling. The product itself couldn't. And finally, the most deceptive move of all. A brand that looks completely authentic, feels completely authentic, and has almost perfected the art of making you feel like you're choosing something real. 6. Leerdammer, French supermarket version. Leerdammer looks exactly like real cheese. The golden colour, the distinctive holes, the clean packaging. Your eyes say yes before your brain can ask a single question. And that's the most sophisticated trick on this entire list. The original Leerdammer made in the Netherlands is a legitimate cheese, but the pre-sliced long-life supermarket version, the one sitting in French supermarkets distributed by Lactalis and Bell Group, has been processed, preserved and modified until almost nothing of the original character remains. The sweet, nutty flavour it's famous for? Gone. What you get instead is a bland, rubbery slice that tastes like the memory of cheese. There are no bold flavours to betray it, no strong smell, no texture surprises. It's designed to feel like a safe, sensible choice, and that invisibility is its greatest weapon. You didn't feel deceived. That's precisely the point. Now, after everything we just exposed, let's be fair, because France is also home to some of the most extraordinary cheese ever made, and these 4 brands are in a completely different league. Best French cheese number 1, Fromagerie Berthaud, Epoisse. When you open a box of Berthaud Epoisse, the smell hits you first. Bold, funky, unforgettable. And here's the thing, that smell is earned. Every single wheel is hand-rubbed up to 3 times a week with Marc de Bourgogne brandy and aged for 5 full weeks in stone cellars in Burgundy. No shortcuts, no emulsifiers, no stabilizers pretending to be tradition. This cheese was actually rescued from extinction in 1956 by Robert and Simone Berthaud, a farming couple who refused to let it disappear. Since then, Epoisse has been awarded over 82 times and earned full AOC protection in 1991. The orange-red rind develops naturally. The creamy interior is the real thing. The flavour, beneath that powerful aroma, is surprisingly fruity, almost gentle. When you taste Berthaud, you're tasting over 5 centuries of Burgundian cheese-making in one spoonful. This is what cheese was always meant to be. And if Berthaud proved that real cheese demands patience, what comes next shows that it also demands obsession, because Papillon doesn't just make their cheese, they make the mould that goes inside it. Best French cheese number 2, Papillon, Roquefort. You want to understand what real artisan cheese looks like? Papillon has been making Roquefort since 1906, and they do something no other Roquefort producer does. They bake their own rye bread in a wood-fired brick oven, cultivate the natural mould from it, and use that exact mould in every single wheel they produce. That's their own exclusive strain, their own flavour signature, their own identity, something no industrial brand can copy or replicate. The milk comes exclusively from Lecorne sheep, grazed freely on the southern Le Vesoul plateau. The wheels are then aged in the natural Combelou limestone caves, where ancient fissures in the rock create the perfect, irreplaceable climate. No factory can simulate those caves. The result is a blue cheese that is simultaneously bold and balanced, deeply salty and tangy, with a creamy interior that melts in your mouth. Papillon doesn't just make Roquefort, they protect something irreplaceable. Papillon guards its craft underground in ancient caves, but our next brand guards something just as powerful, a royal title. Because Brie de Meaux wasn't just called the king of cheeses by accident. Best French cheese number 3, Brie de Meaux. Brie de Meaux was declared the king of cheeses in 1814, and Fromagerie Rousset has spent 3 generations making sure that title still means something. This family-run dairy in the heart of the Île-de-France region collects fresh, raw milk every single day from just 24 carefully selected local farms, all within 50 kilometers. The cows are fed at least 80% fresh grass. The milk is renneted the same day it arrives. The curds are hand-ladled into molds using a traditional perforated ladle, a technique unchanged for centuries. Every wheel is then ripened slowly in underground cellars where humidity and light are monitored by hand. What you get when you cut into a Rousset Brie is a pale, creamy interior with deep notes of mushroom, hazelnut, and fresh earth. Not engineered flavor, but flavor that grew in a real meadow. This is the Brie that the brands we talked about earlier wish they could be. Rousset turned a family dairy into a royal legacy. But nothing quite prepares you for what our final brand did. They took a military fortress built for 3,500 soldiers and turned it into a cathedral of cheese. Best French cheese, Giroflore, Comté, Fort des Rousses. Imagine a former Napoleonic military fortress built to house 3,500 soldiers, now home to 140,000 wheels of aging Comté cheese. That's Fort des Rousses, a historical monument in the Jura Mountains converted in 1997 into one of the most spectacular cheese cellars in the world. The thick stone walls create a naturally stable climate, and the ancient vaulted ceilings allow slow, permanent air movement that no modern facility can reproduce. Giroflore's Comté is made from raw Montbéliard cow's milk, cows that graze freely on mountain pastures in summer and eat local Jura hay in winter. No fermented feed, no shortcuts. The cheese is pressed into massive 40-kilogram wheels, each one requiring around 450 litres of milk and aged anywhere from 12 to 36 months. What you taste, roasted almonds, brown butter, a hint of citrus, is the direct result of those pastures, that altitude and that fortress. Nothing in a foil triangle will ever come close. So there it is. 6 brands banking on your trust, 4 brands that actually earned it. The difference between them isn't just ingredients, it's intention. One side spent millions making you feel like you were choosing quality. The other side spent generations actually building it. Next time you're standing in that cheese aisle, take an extra 10 seconds. Flip the packet, read the label. Because real French cheese exists, it's extraordinary and it deserves to be in your hands. Not the processed imitation sitting right next to it wearing the same flag. If this video opened your eyes, hit that like button and share it, because everyone deserves to know what they're actually eating. And if you want more videos like this, subscribe. We're just getting started.